The sky was quiet, full of stars. Joel sat alone on his cabin porch, drinking tea, staring up. He had no wife, no children, no neighbors, only trees, cold wind, and silence all around him. It had been years since he talked to anyone for more than 5 minutes. He liked it this way. Peaceful, no drama, no noise, but that night, everything changed in one flash of burning light. A loud crack shook the sky. Joel looked up and saw fire streaking across the stars. Something was falling, fast, glowing, and headed straight toward the woods behind his house. Then boom, the crash hit the earth hard, sending birds flying from the trees and shaking the ground beneath his feet. Joel stood frozen for a moment. He wasn't sure if it was a dream or something real. Then he grabbed his flashlight and ran toward the smoke. Branches scratched his arms, the cold air bit his skin, but curiosity pulled him forward. He followed the smoke deeper into the woods, until he saw it. A strange silver pod, small and cracked open like an egg, sat in a clearing. Joel stepped closer, heart beating fast. The metal looked smooth but burned at the edges. Lights blinked softly on its surface, blue and green, and inside, curled up and shaking, was a girl. A very small girl, no taller than a 6-year-old human. But she wasn't human at all. Her skin was pale purple, glowing slightly. Her hair was silver and floated around her head like soft feathers. She had no clothes, only strange patterns glowing across her body like tattoos. Her eyes opened slowly, big, glassy, and the color of space. Joel whispered, "Are you okay?" She blinked and tried to sit up, her body weak. He knelt beside her and gently helped her lean against the pod. Then she opened her mouth and her voice sounded like wind and music together. "You are human," she said slowly. Like learning a new word, Joel nodded, not sure what to say. "What are you? Where are you from?" She looked at him for a long moment, then reached out a tiny hand. When her fingers touched his chest, his heart jumped. A soft blue light passed between them. Just for a second, she smiled and whispered, "Let's make a baby." Joel blinked, frozen. "What?" he asked, thinking maybe he misheard. The tiny alien girl tilted her head, her smile innocent. "You are chosen," she said, her voice calm. "I crashed here. For you?" Joel didn't know if he should laugh, panic, or run. He backed away slowly, hands raised. "Okay, hold on, let's slow down a little." The girl stood wobbling on weak legs. She pointed at him, then at herself. "We make life," she said simply. Then her knees buckled and she fell. Joel rushed forward and caught her. She was light, like holding a bundle of feathers. He couldn't leave her here. Not in the cold woods, not after that crash. He wrapped her in his coat and carried her back toward the cabin. On the way, she whispered in a soft voice, "Hunters. Coming. Danger." But before he could ask anything, she passed out in his arms. Joel didn't sleep that night. He placed her gently on his couch, wrapped her in a blanket and sat across from her, staring, thinking, wondering what had just happened. Was this real? An alien girl just crash-landed in his backyard and asked to make a baby. That couldn't be normal, could it? And what did she mean by hunters? Why him? Why here? Why now? As the first light of dawn touched the trees outside, Joel realized something. His quiet life was over. He didn't ask for any of this, but now it was here, right in his living room. An alien girl with glowing skin, sleeping peacefully. After saying the strangest thing he had ever heard, he poured another cup of tea, eyes still on her. One thing was certain. Whatever came next, he wasn't ready for it. Joel woke up in his chair, his neck stiff and his back aching. Sunlight came through the cabin window, soft and golden. He blinked, rubbed his eyes, and looked across the room. She was still there, lying on the couch, wrapped in a blanket. But now her eyes were open, watching him quietly. No fear, no panic, just calm curiosity. Joel sat up straighter and cleared his throat. "Morning," he said awkwardly. The alien girl sat up slowly, still weak. Her silver hair shimmered in the light, and her skin glowed softly. She looked around the cabin, then back at Joel. "You are safe," she said. "I kept you safe too," Joel replied, trying to smile. "So, what's your name?" She blinked, then touched her own chest. "I am Miari," she said slowly. Joel pointed to himself. "Joel," she repeated it. "Joel." There was a long pause. Then Miari tilted her head and said again, "We must make a baby." Joel nearly dropped his mug. Okay, he said quickly. "Can we talk about that part?" Miari looked confused. It is necessary. Yeah, you said that last night, but what do you mean? Like an actual baby? She stood up, her bare feet light on the wooden floor. She walked toward him and placed 2 fingers on his chest again. Blue light flickered between them. Your body is compatible, your soul is warm, she said. My people need both. Joel stepped back, confused and a little nervous. I think you got the wrong guy, Miari, he said. I live in a cabin, I talk to trees, and I burn my toast half the time. Miari didn't laugh. She walked over to the table, touched his teacup and stared at the steam. Then she spoke softly. I was sent in a seed ship, meant to find a human with kindness. She turned back to him. We do not make babies like you think. It is not about touching, it is about choice. Joel looked surprised. Choice? She nodded. Your choice creates the bond. Your care makes the seed grow. I don't understand, he said. Shaking his head, she walked closer, her voice soft like wind. My species was hunted, broken, dying. I am a carrier of the last spark. Joel looked into her eyes and saw something there. Loneliness, pain, and hope. Miari touched her glowing tattoos. If I bond with someone who chooses me, the spark becomes life, new life. Powerful life. And if I don't choose? He asked. Then the spark fades and I return to light. Joel didn't know what to say. He had been alone for so long now, this girl, this alien with eyes full of stars, stood before him asking for something bigger than he could understand. I don't even know you, he said honestly. Miari gave a small nod. Then know me. She sat down on the floor. Legs crossed, hands open, Joel hesitated, then sat down across from her for the next hour. She told him stories, not in full words, but in light and images. From her glowing fingertips came small floating shapes, stars, planets, strange beasts, ruins, fire, and sorrow. Joel saw flashes of her homeworld, once full of color and song. He saw the invasion, the destruction. The escape pods launched into cold space. One of those pods had her. My heart is still learning, she whispered. But I saw your eyes when you held me. You didn't leave. Joel felt something stir in his chest. She was right, he didn't leave, even when he was confused. Even when she scared him, suddenly the lights in the cabin flickered. Miari's eyes widened. They're close. Who? Joel asked, standing up fast. The hunters. They tracked the crash signal. Joel grabbed his axe from beside the door. Wait, he said, breathing fast. Are they here for you? Or for the spark? Miari stood up slowly, her body glowing brighter. For both, she said. They want to control the spark. Twist it, sell it. Joel swallowed hard. He never signed up for this. Never planned for alien battles or intergalactic bonds. But now he felt it. That small, warm pull toward her. She wasn't just some weird alien girl anymore. She was something more. Do we have time to run? He asked. Miari shook her head. Running wakes the seed. Joel blinked. What does that mean? If you run with me, you are already choosing, she whispered. The cabin door creaked. Joel tightened his grip on the axe. Heart pounding, Miari stood beside him, her small hand glowing, her body ready. Outside, the trees moved. Not from the wind, but from something darker, bigger and closer. Joel didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but tonight he would stand beside her, even if he didn't fully understand yet, because something deep inside him whispered, this tiny girl from the stars might be the most important thing he ever protected. Joel didn't sleep that night. He sat by the door with his axe in hand, eyes fixed on the shadows outside. The cabin felt smaller, heavier, like the air itself knew something bad was coming. Miari sat quietly in the corner, her silver hair floating around her shoulders. Glowing just a little, she stared at the wooden floor, drawing circles with her fingers. Joel whispered, Are you okay? Miari looked up slowly. No, she said. The signal has gone far. Joel leaned forward. What signal? She closed her eyes. The pod I came in, it wasn't just a vessel, it was a beacon. When it crashed, it sent a wave through the void. A call. Joel swallowed hard. A call for help? He asked, hoping for good news. Miari shook her head. No. A call for power. She stood and walked to the window, pressing her glowing fingers against the glass. My spark is rare, ancient, she said. Many dark creatures want it, not to protect it, but to use it. Joel looked out with her. Into the trees. The night was too quiet, too still. Who are these creatures? He asked. Miari whispered one word. Kralith, even saying it made the air colder. Joel had never heard it before, but it felt wrong in his ears. He turned to her. Tell me what they are. Miari spoke in a voice soft but full of fear. The Kralith are collectors, hunters of rare life. They don't care about balance or love. They take powerful beings, trap them and sell them across galaxies. They destroyed my planet, and now they come for me. Joel felt something tighten in his chest. This girl, so small, so fragile, had lived through more than he could imagine, and now she was here asking for safety, from creatures he couldn't even picture. What do they want with me? He asked. Miari looked at him, her star-like eyes glowing stronger now. They will kill you, she said simply, because you are my choice. Joel stood frozen. His hand loosened on the axe. So I get punished for helping you? Miari nodded. They fear love. Fear free will, she said. The spark cannot be forced, only chosen. Then she did something Joel didn't expect. She walked over and took his hand. Her tiny fingers curled around his. You were kind, she said. So they want to erase you? Joel looked down at her small hand in his. It was soft, warm, glowing with life. He took a deep breath. I'm not running, he said, so what do we do? Miari stepped back and placed both palms against the floor. Lines of soft blue light spread like roots from her hands. Pulsing. The cabin trembled gently. Joel backed up, unsure. What are you doing? Activating the core, she replied. This place has ancient protection. The floorboards opened slightly, revealing a strange crystal embedded in the wood. It rose up like a flower, glowing brighter than anything Joel had ever seen. Miari stood over it, chanting softly in her language. Then she turned to Joel. This is the memory core of my kind, she said. It holds our knowledge, our maps, and our weapons, Joel blinked. You brought weapons? Miari nodded. I hoped I wouldn't need them. She waved her hand, and part of the wall shimmered. It revealed a hidden chamber full of alien tech, floating spheres. Glowing rods and sharp silver tools. Joel stared. Okay. That's not from Earth. No, Miari said. But now it must protect Earth. Suddenly, the ground shook hard. Joel lost his balance and grabbed the edge of the table. Miari's eyes went wide. They're here, she whispered. Outside, a low humming filled the forest. Then came a voice, deep, metallic, and cold. Carrier of spark. Exit the shelter, it said. Surrender the human. Joel and Miari stared at each other. The voice repeated louder. Surrender the human. Miari reached into the chamber and pulled out a glowing rod. She tossed another to Joel. This is a pulse staff, she said. Hit hard, aim true. Joel caught it. Still unsure how to use it, he glanced at her. You sure this thing won't explode in my hands? She gave a tiny smile. Only if you press the wrong end. The door of the cabin rattled under pressure. Joel took position beside it, heart racing. Miari stood beside him. Her tattoos glowing like fire, she whispered.
We only have to hold them long enough? For what?
Joel asked. Miari looked him in the eyes. For the seed to wake. Joel didn't know what that meant, but he had no time to ask. The door exploded inward, and the battle began. The cabin door exploded into pieces. Wood flew across the room like sharp knives. Joel ducked and covered his head, heart pounding. Smoke filled the air, and the floor trembled under heavy footsteps. From the smoke came a shape, tall, armored, and terrifying. It was one of the Kralith. Its body was covered in black metal plates that moved like living skin. Its face had no mouth, only a glowing red slit where its eyes should be. Miari stood tall, her glowing skin brighter than ever. She held the pulse staff like it was part of her hand. Joel stood beside her, gripping his own staff, hands shaking. The alien warrior scanned the room and said in a cold voice, Surrender the spark or die. Miari raised her staff. You will not touch him, she said calmly. He has chosen. The Kralith roared. A deep mechanical sound, it charged forward fast and heavy. Miari moved like lightning, spinning and striking. Her staff hit the creature's side, sending out a blast of blue energy. Joel watched in awe but didn't freeze this time. He swung his staff at the Kralith's leg, knocking it off balance. Together, they pushed the hunter back toward the open door. But then another one appeared. Taller, faster, more dangerous, Joel yelled. There's two of them. Miari's eyes flashed bright white. She turned and jumped, using a wall to flip behind the second Kralith. She struck its neck, but the creature only stumbled. They were strong, too strong. Joel fought the first one, dodging and swinging. The staff hummed in his hand, glowing brighter with every hit. He had never fought before, not in war, not in street fights, nothing like this, but now, something inside him refused to back down. He had to protect Miari, protect the spark. The second Kralith grabbed Miari and slammed her into the wall. She screamed. Pain in her voice, Joel turned and threw his staff like a spear. It hit the creature in the chest, exploding in a burst of light. The Kralith fell back, sparks flying from its armor. Miari dropped to the floor, coughing. Joel ran to her side and pulled her up. "Are you okay?" he asked. She nodded weakly. "Yes, but more will come." He looked around the broken cabin. The walls were cracked, the air thick with smoke. "We can't fight them all," he said. Miari held up her hand, and the ground beneath them began to glow. A circle opened, showing a deep tunnel below the cabin. "This is the heart root," she said. "Where the seed rests." Joel helped her down the steps. Carrying her weight, the stairs were narrow and old, but filled with soft light from glowing roots on the walls. At the bottom was a large chamber, round and warm. In the center floated a glowing orb, pure light. Pulsing like a heartbeat, Joel stared at it. "Is that the spark?" Miari nodded, her voice softer now. "It is the seed of our future. And yours too." Joel walked toward it, the light drawing him in. He could feel its warmth even from a distance, but above them, the sound of metal footsteps echoed again. The Kralith were breaking through the floor. Miari placed her hand on the orb and it reacted instantly. A beam of light connected the orb to Joel's chest. He gasped, falling to his knees. Visions filled his mind, stars, planets, dying worlds, and a child. A child born not from pain but from unity. Born from a human heart and an alien soul. The bond had begun. Miari smiled through her pain. "You accepted me," she whispered. Joel looked at her, breathing hard. "I didn't know I did. But yeah, I think I did." The orb pulsed again, brighter now, and just then, the Kralith crashed through the ceiling. Joel stood, placing himself between them and the seed. This time he didn't feel fear. He felt fire. Miari rose beside him, her body glowing like a star. Together they raised their hands, and the chamber itself responded. Roots shot from the ground, wrapping around the Kralith, pulling them down. Light exploded from the seed, covering everything in gold. The hunters screamed, their bodies cracking under the pressure. One by one they fell, and silence returned to the chamber. Joel fell to his knees, exhausted. Miari dropped beside him, her head resting on his shoulder. He looked at the floating seed and whispered, "What happens now?" Miari closed her eyes. "Now. The spark grows." Days passed after the attack. The cabin was broken, the windows shattered, and the walls burned. But it was still standing, and so were they. Joel worked from morning to night, fixing the damage. He hammered new planks into the walls, swept away the ash, and cleared the rubble. Miari sat near the doorway watching him, her body still weak, but her glow returning slowly. The spark inside the hidden chamber had gone quiet. For now, but they both knew it was still alive, still growing. "Why are you doing all this?" she asked one evening. Joel paused, wiping sweat from his forehead. He looked at her, then at the cabin around them. "Because this is my home," he said, "and now, it's yours too." Miari tilted her head, her silver hair catching the light. "Home," she whispered, like the word was new and precious. She repeated it again, "Home." Then she smiled, the kind of smile that made Joel's tired heart beat a little faster. From that day on, Miari started changing the inside of the cabin. She used her glowing hands to paint strange patterns on the walls, symbols from her people, circles, stars, flowing lines like rivers. She placed crystals in the corners, each one humming with soft energy. When Joel asked what they were for, she answered, "They protect dreams." At night, Joel found her talking to the seed. She would kneel by the hidden chamber below and whisper in her alien tongue. Sometimes the seed glowed in response. Sometimes it pulsed gently. Joel didn't interrupt. He just watched from the top of the stairs, silent, curious, confused, and maybe a little comforted. One morning, Joel woke to a strange smell. He rushed to the kitchen, thinking something was burning, but instead, he found Miari wearing one of his oversized flannel shirts, standing on a chair, cooking something in a pan. The sight was so strange, so real, he couldn't help but laugh. "What are you doing?" he asked. She turned to him, proudly holding up a steaming plate. "I made food," she said. Joel looked at the mess of glowing noodles, blue sauce, and tiny dancing sparkles. Is it safe? She nodded seriously. It's very edible. He sat down, took a fork, and stared at the plate. Miari sat across from him, watching closely. Joel took a bite, chewed slowly, then raised his eyebrows. It's actually good, he said, surprised. Miari grinned. I used memory spice. They both laughed for the first time since the crash. Not because everything was okay, but because for a moment, it felt like a normal life. Later that day, Miari found an old blanket in Joel's closet. She pulled it out and wrapped herself in it like a cocoon. Then she dragged it onto the floor and sat beside the fireplace. Joel watched her from the kitchen. You know that's not how people use blankets, right? She looked at him seriously and said, It is now. Joel sat beside her, and they watched the fire together outside. The wind howled through the trees, but inside the cabin was warm, filled with strange comfort. Mary leaned her head on Joel's shoulder and whispered, You smell like home. Joel didn't know what to say, so he just let the moment stay quiet. But deep inside, something stirred again. He had felt alone for years, like his life was just one long, silent walk. Now, there was someone beside him, someone who didn't come from his world, but maybe made him feel alive in it again. That night, the dream came. Joel stood in a giant field of stars. In the center floated the seed, now larger. Brighter, surrounded by swirling lights, Miari stood beside it. Holding out her hand, he reached for her, and the moment they touched, the seed split open. A soft cry echoed through the stars. Like a baby's first breath, Joel woke with a gasp, sweat on his skin, heart racing. He sat up in bed, and Miari was already awake. Sitting in the corner. You saw it, she said softly. Joel nodded. What does it mean? She looked down at her hands. The seed is waking. They both sat in silence, the weight of those words sinking in. This wasn't over, not yet. Something bigger was coming. But for now, in this small broken cabin, they had something rare. Peace, connection. A strange kind of love growing in quiet spaces. Miari looked up. If I could choose again, I'd still crash in your garden, Joel smiled. If I could choose again, I'd still answer the noise. The sky turned dark before the evening came. Clouds gathered fast, thick and heavy, rolling like smoke across the heavens. Joel stood on the porch, staring upward. He had seen many storms in the forest, but never one like this. The wind screamed through the trees, the birds vanished, and even the insects stopped making noise. It was the kind of silence that warned of something worse than rain. Behind him, Miari stepped out slowly. Her glowing tattoos pulsed with nervous light. This isn't just weather, Joel said quietly. Miari nodded. No. It's a Krelith rift storm. Joel turned to her. What's that? A gateway storm, she whispered. They open the sky with machines, tear through dimensions. They're coming again. Joel clenched his fists. We already stopped them once, he said. Miari looked at him with tired eyes. That was just the scouts, she replied. Now the warship comes. Before Joel could answer, thunder boomed, not normal thunder. This sound was metallic and deep, like the roar of a machine god. The sky cracked open with a jagged purple line, and something massive shimmered behind the clouds. Joel's mouth went dry. A floating fortress hidden by clouds slowly descended from the upper atmosphere. It was shaped like a spiked wheel, turning slowly, its core burning red. Dozens of Krelith dropships began falling from it, each one heading straight for them. They found the seed, Miari said. Stepping forward, she placed a hand on her chest. They can sense the bond now. The spark is too strong to hide. Joel looked around the cabin. We can't fight all of them here, he said. Miari shook her head. No, not this time. She walked to the back of the cabin and raised her glowing hand. A door opened in the ground, one Joel hadn't seen before. It led deep into the forest through a tunnel of old roots and hidden paths. This is the last path of my people, she said. We must take the seed to the cradle chamber. Joel didn't question it. He ran to the hidden chamber, carefully lifted the glowing orb, and held it in both hands. It was warm, soft, and strangely light, like holding a sleeping heartbeat. Miari stood by the tunnel entrance, her eyes fixed on the storm above. If they catch us now, they will rip the spark from both of us, she said. Joel gritted his teeth. Then let's not get caught. They entered the tunnel together. Roots above their heads twisted like vines, glowing softly to light the path. The deeper they went, The warmer it became, like the forest was alive and protecting them. Miari whispered as they walked, "Do you feel it?" Joel looked down at the seed in his hands. It was glowing brighter now. "Yes," he said. "It's changing. The seed is reacting to danger," she explained. "It's preparing to be born." They reached a large chamber at the tunnel's end. It was filled with floating crystals, each one humming in tune with the seed. In the center was a round cradle-like basin. Made from stone and roots, Joel carefully placed the orb inside, and the entire room lit up. The ground shook. Outside, they could hear the thuds of Kralith landing in the woods above. "They're almost here," Joel said. Picking up a pulse staff, Miari stood beside him, holding a crystal blade this time. But her voice was calm. "If the seed wakes now, it will protect us," Joel frowned. "You said the seed is part of both of us, right?" She nodded. "Then maybe it's more than just protection," he said, looking at the glowing cradle. "Maybe it's listening." Miari knelt beside the orb and placed both hands on it. She whispered in her language, slow and soft like a lullaby. Joel stood behind her, guarding the tunnel entrance, heart racing. The sound of footsteps echoed, metal feet crunching leaves. Getting closer, suddenly the orb pulsed. One strong beat, like a drum, then another, louder. Then a voice filled the chamber, not Joel's, not Miari's, but something new. It spoke only one word, in both their minds at once. "Family," Miari gasped. Tears in her glowing eyes, Joel stepped closer. "It spoke," he whispered. She nodded slowly. "The seed chose to be born." Light exploded from the orb, forming a protective barrier around the chamber. Just as the Kralith burst into the tunnel entrance, the barrier flared and stopped them cold. They screamed, slashing and firing their weapons. But nothing broke through. The seed rose above the cradle, spinning faster, its light now blinding. Joel shielded his eyes, and when the light faded, a shape floated in the air, small, soft, glowing, with arms, legs, and a face, a child, not fully human, not fully alien, but something new, something perfect. Miari reached out with shaking hands. The child floated into her arms and opened its glowing eyes. It smiled. Joel stepped closer, speechless. The chamber hummed with peace. Even the Kralith outside froze, unsure of what they were seeing. Miari looked at Joel and whispered, "Our baby is born." The newborn floated gently in Miari's arms, small, glowing, and warm. Its skin shimmered like soft silver mixed with Earth's light. Its eyes were stars, tiny galaxies turning in silence. Joel stood still, breath caught in his chest. He couldn't speak, he couldn't think, he could only stare. This wasn't possible, and yet, it was. The seed had become life. Not just an idea, not just a spark, but a child. Their child. Miari held the baby close to her chest. It rested its tiny hand on her shoulder, and the room filled with soft light. The barrier still pulsed around them. Outside it, the Kralith stood frozen. Dozens of them, machines of war. Weapons raised, but none dared fire. They stared, silent, almost afraid. Joel finally found his voice. "What now?" he asked, his voice dry. Miari turned to him, her face full of peace and power. "Now," she said softly, "the child chooses." Joel blinked. "Chooses what?" "The future," Miari replied. "The spark has become something the galaxy has never seen, and it can decide what to protect, what to change, and what to destroy." The child opened its tiny mouth and spoke, not with words but with light. A wave of energy swept through the chamber. Soft and golden, it passed through Joel, passed through Miari, and touched the Kralith outside the barrier. Each hunter froze as the wave reached them. Their metal shells shimmered, then cracked. Not broken by violence, but changed by something deeper. Their weapons dropped. Their red eyes flickered, then dimmed. They backed away slowly for the first time in their lives. They were afraid. The baby looked at Joel and smiled. He fell to his knees, eyes full of tears, not from pain, not from fear, but from something he never thought he'd feel again. Hope. Miari knelt beside him. She gently laid the baby in his arms. Joel trembled, holding the child close. It was light, so small yet heavy with meaning. "Why me?" he whispered. "Why was I chosen?" Miari touched his shoulder. "Because you stayed," she said. "Because you gave warmth without asking for anything back. Because when I was alone, you made space for me. You didn't just open your door, Joel. You opened your heart." Outside, the warship above the sky began to shake. The child raised one hand, just a tiny gesture, and the great machine in the clouds began to drift. Not toward Earth, but away. The storm began to clear. Light returned to the forest. Wind blew gently through the trees. Birds returned to the sky. The Kralith were gone. The threat was over. Joel looked around the chamber, then down at the small face in his arms. What do we do now? Miari smiled. We live, she said simply. We raise a child that carries two worlds. Joel nodded slowly, still overwhelmed, still unsure but no longer afraid. They left the cradle chamber together, climbing up through the forest tunnel. The cabin was damaged but still standing, and now it felt alive. Joel fixed the windows again. Miari hung glowing stones from the roof. The child floated from room to room, touching plants, animals, and objects. Everything it touched bloomed one day while chopping wood. Joel saw a figure at the edge of the trees. A traveler, not human, not Kralith, an alien. Wearing robes of white and gold, behind him stood more, not with weapons but with gifts. Joel walked to the edge of the trees. The alien bowed deeply. We heard the spark was born, he said. Joel didn't speak, just stepped aside and pointed toward the cabin inside. The child laughed as it played with butterflies in the kitchen. Miari sat beside the fire, singing in her native tongue. And the galaxy, far beyond the trees, had already begun to change. The spark was alive. The war was over, and from a tiny cabin in the forest, a new chapter in the universe had begun. Not with blood, not with weapons, but with kindness, with family, and a baby that could shape the stars.